Alright, well, UFC 290 wrapped up just hours after the card. Gotta say, there was a lot of crazy moments with the upset of Dricus Plessis actually knocking out Robert Whittaker faster than Adesanya did, with a jab, I might add. Volkanovski dominating Yair Rodriguez, a fight that I thought was close, and a fight I actually picked Yair to win. Brandon Moreno losing his title, and Pantoja having a really good performance against him, and actually doing well in the later rounds, which I think a lot of people did not expect. Nickal, I mean, there's so many cool things that happened on this card. Of course, the fight with Dan Hooker, I can go on and on, Robbie, Lawler, but that's what this video is for, and I kind of want to just discuss it. I will be making videos throughout this whole week, especially about what Adesanya, Dricus Plessis, what I think is going to happen with that. There's a lot of things to talk about post pay-per-view as always, so I'm gonna suggest you guys hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share, because it helps me, it helps you guys, so you guys get notifications for the video. And yeah, we're trying to 30K by the end of the year, so if you guys could just do that for me and hit the subscribe button, I'd truly appreciate it. And yeah, obviously it's late, so let's just get into UFC 290. Alright, UFC 290 just wrapped up, and I gotta say, this was a really fun card. A lot of upsets, which I figured was going to happen. I mean, Pantoja was a big underdog. He was like plus 170, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't know who set him as an underdog. I thought he should have been a favorite, or at least even. But regardless, I want to start in order, and I first want to talk about Robbie Lawler and him actually winning his retirement fight. As we know, as MMA fans, usually UFC fighter goes like this. They start on the scene, pretty good prospect, eventually get to the title, have a good career, grow a fan base. Everybody loves them until they are absolutely heartbroken because their favorite fighter gets knocked out cold. Thousands of time, it becomes a prospect's highlight reel. That's usually what happens, and yes, that has happened to Robbie Lawler to a certain extent. I think Robbie's actually severely underrated, even at the age of 41. Like, I mean, as you can see from this performance, but even last year with Bryan Barberena, he had a lot of success against him, eventually did get knocked out. He looked really good against Nick Diaz, but obviously I know Nick Diaz wasn't exactly the best going into that fight, you could tell. But I think, yeah, I think he's really underrated, and honestly, I think he would do well in like boxing or something like that. But he says he's retired, and yeah, obviously he wins his fight in under a minute, knocks out Nico Price in the clinch, knocks him out bad. I was super happy for Robbie Lawler, afraid that he was going to get finished in this fight, but luckily Robbie Lawler was able to survive and knock out his opponent. Like, it was a really good performance from him. It kind of sucks at the same time when a fighter you really like, you know, has a great performance like that and just retires. It kind of makes you kind of itching for more, you know what I mean? Kind of like when Khabib fought Justin Gaethje. It's like he had such a great performance, you're like, hey, I want to see more. I want to see what this guy is actually capable of. And of course, we know what Robbie's capable of. I mean, he's reached the highest of highs, became the champion, but it's like, damn, I really wouldn't mind seeing him fight another guy. It sucks though, but at the same time, he's had a good career. He's a legend, and now, yeah, he's happy retired. But we're gonna move on to the main card with Bo Nickal. And wow, you know, I've been critical of Bo Nickal. I'm gonna be honest. I said, hey, he's overhyped. I mean, he kind of got me believing the hype a little bit with this performance, I'm gonna be honest, because he didn't just wrestle, he didn't even shoot a takedown. I mean, this is a guy that he also took on short notice, knew nothing really about, because this guy really hadn't really fought much outside the UFC. Like, we don't really know how good this guy is. Like, for all we know, this guy could be a future champion, you know what I mean? And Bo Nickal just stands with him. Obviously, it would probably be easier for him to wrestle with him, but he decided to stand with him and got a big knockout in the first round. Very impressive for Bo Nickal, but I still stand by what I said. I do think he's a little overhyped, guys. We've seen good wrestlers come into the UFC and do bad. It's happened before. I don't think it's an indicator because he has a good wrestling background. I don't think that means that you're necessarily going to be this crazy prospect. I understand Bo Nickal does have knockouts too, which, yes, are impressive, and his striking definitely looked a lot better, and I can guarantee you it's because he's been training with Jake Paul for sure. Obviously, the GOAT of boxing. But in all seriousness, his striking definitely looked improved, and yeah, if he can get his striking really good, especially with that wrestling background, because we know that it's going to be hard to dominate a guy like Bo Nickal, he could be a real problem for a lot of the guys in the division, especially when you look at a guy like Israel Adesanya, who is a kickboxer at the end of the day. Yes, is well-rounded and really good at takedown defense, but there's an argument to be said, you know, what if Bo Nickal could easily get a hold of him? What happens there? That's where it becomes interesting, but I think Bo Nickal has a long way for that. But yeah, I personally would rather see him, you know, fight an unranked guy, but just like a little bit higher competition, just to see, is he the real deal? I like the Trayshawn Gore matchup. I don't know if they should just rebook it. I really don't really want them to, but like a Joaquin Buckley type matchup. Yes, I know Joaquin Buckley is a welterweight now, but I'm just saying someone of that realm that's a good fighter, that has a name, but, you know, isn't necessarily in the top 15, is a guy that you kind of want to get past and see, you know, how well does he do against him, and kind of gauge what you should do with him next. I don't think you should just be rushed to the top 15 or get someone like a Robert Whittaker next, but we're gonna get to him later, because I also first want to talk about the Dan Hooker versus Jalin Turner fight. Now, obviously, it seems like Jalin Hooker wasn't 100% going into this fight. He missed weight. He's made weight before. Granted, he's a big lightweight, but still, you never know. Maybe there could be an injury that prevented him from fighting, but also, you know, he could have just had a bad weight cut. And I'm not trying to, you know, discredit Dan Hooker in any way, but Dan Hooker did have a good performance, and it kind of made me wonder, are we just too hard on Dan Hooker? Because let's be honest, he fought Poirier in 2020, you know, won a few of the early rounds, really hurt Dustin in that fight, and of course, he got really hurt as well, but it was a war. Fought Michael Chandler, got knocked out, but we know how hard Michael Chandler hits. After that, he got a win against Nasrat. Then he got submitted by Islam in the first round on short notice. Then he went to featherweight. Obviously, that was a drained the weight cut. Then he fought Claudio Puelles, got the win there, and now he has another win, 2 back-to-back wins, and this is a guy ranked in the top 15, a guy that a lot of people I think thought was the real deal. A lot of guys were like, hey, that this guy could be a big problem in the future. And are we just too hard on Dan Hooker? Like, I know there's a lot of this idea that maybe he's done and he should hang it up, but maybe he's still got a little bit left in him. Maybe we're just being a little too hard, and for that reason I kind of want to see a Tony Ferguson matchup. I know he said he was offended by the idea of that, or maybe not a Tony Ferguson, like maybe an Arman Sarukian, but I'm sure they're gonna go with Fiziev and Mateus Gamrot, but maybe one of those guys. You know, I would like to see Dan Hooker against them. Honestly, I really like that Rafael Fiziev matchup for Dan Hooker. Not saying he would win it, but I just think it's a fun matchup. You know, they're both strikers at the end of the day. This is a way for Dan Hooker to get back at the top. If he beats Fiziev, it's gonna be very impressive. And man, the head kick that he ate and then just coming back right after. I scored it for Dan Hooker. I know it was a split decision, but I thought it was clearly Dan Hooker. And we're gonna talk about the judging later, because when we talk about this Brandon Moreno fight, I have a lot of problems. Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. A lot of people had it in their head that, hey, Robert Whittaker was a lock. And granted, I thought Robert Whittaker was going to win, and I thought that he would win pretty much the decision. And although I did acknowledge that Dricus does kind of create some problems from Robert Whittaker, he is a guy that goes forward. I said multiple times that this wasn't going to be an easy fight for Robert Whittaker to win, but I was not expecting this, because arguably Dricus du Plessis did kind of dominate Robert Whittaker. Yes, Robert Whittaker had his moments. He did land a lot of shots on Dricus, but Dricus won round 1 pretty clearly in my opinion, and then he won round 2 and knocked him out, obviously. So there's an argument to be made that he kind of dominated him. I won't say dominant, but he did pretty good against Robert Whittaker, and arguably better than Adesanya's ever done. Adesanya did do well in the first Robert Whittaker fight. Then in the second fight, a lot of people think Robert Whittaker won that fight. I think Adesanya won, but there is an argument there, and it was pretty close. But even at the first one, Dricus du Plessis was able to finish Robert Whittaker sooner than Israel Adesanya did. And although I like Robert Whittaker, and I do feel bad because I don't think he's going to get another shot against Adesanya, I feel like this was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him, because I don't think they're going to really call him and be like, hey, we need you to fight Israel Adesanya, because, you know, a third fight is just unmarketable at this point. But it is good to see some fresh blood. You know, Dricus du Plessis is a fresh matchup, and it's not like they went into a war. It's not like really Robert Whittaker landed so many shots on him that he can't continue to fight. I'm more worried about the training camp and, you know, going back-to-back training camps. That is what I'm more concerned about, getting injured inside camp, but you also have a guy like Sean Strickland that could probably fill in for him. But yeah, I also want to make a video about that whole walkout situation with Israel Adesanya, that face-to-face. It was a little cringe, if we're gonna be honest. Saw a lot of people agreeing online, and I gotta say, you know, this whole, you know, argument about this Africa thing, I just think it's stupid. I think it's just, you know, to build up a fight. It's so fucking dumb. Like, people take it so serious. Like, I really do not care at all. Like, whatever. At the end of the day, I'm not even sure, like, what the argument is. Like, really. Like, I have no idea what this beef is really about. Like, does anybody else agree? Does anybody actually care who's quote-unquote the real African? And it was just weird, but I'm gonna do a video talking about, you know, the face-to-face, how I think that matchup is going to go. Am I excited for it? Do I think Sean Strickland's going to fight instead, etc.? So, if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comment section below. Alright, next up, we're talking about Brandon Moreno versus Alexandre Pantoja 2. Now, obviously, we know this whole thing. Brandon Moreno lost to him twice, once in TUF, once in the UFC, got cut, came back, became the champion. Now, Alexandre Pantoja is the challenger trying to fight Brandon Moreno. When I picked Pantoja, but I gotta say, Brandon Moreno did a lot better than I expected. I really thought that was going to go similar to the first fight, because though Brandon Moreno did struggle a lot, especially sometimes got tricked into, you know, brawling with Pantoja, something that I said I didn't want him to do. In the beginning round, I was super confident that Brandon Moreno was going to win, until he got dropped, of course, but even after he got dropped, I was confident he was going to win, just because, you know, he was really following a good game plan. You know, he would counter Pantoja's pressure with, you know, just grappling, clinching him up, hanging on Pantoja, and I thought Pantoja was going to get tired, but it looks like he got a second win, and he looked tired even fighting, but he just had that will, that determination. And let's talk about the scoring. I don't even believe I should have to score this fight, because I don't think you could really see it another way, but let's talk about it. Round 1 went to Pantoja, close round, because yes, Brandon Moreno did have success before the knockdown, but not really close in my opinion. I don't know why I said it was close. Pantoja clearly won that round. Round 2, I gave to Moreno. I thought Moreno, you know, he was just going to win the rest of the fight. Then round 3, Pantoja comes back. Round 4, it was a close round. I would say if you're going to give Brandon Moreno another round, you got to give him that round. And then round 5, I thought also went to Pantoja. That's a little bit close, but I think kind of Pantoja won. I had a 49-46 for Pantoja. Crazy that these judges, you know, had 48-47. I mean, okay, maybe I could see 48-47. Let me know in the comment section below how do you guys score it, but I had it 49-46. And the craziest part is the scorecard for Brandon Moreno. I just knew that there was going to be a robbery, you know, with the Mexican fans cheering, with the judging before that, with the Dan Hooker fight, with someone giving Jalin Turner that third round. Ridiculous to me. I knew that there was going to be some sort of judging. I was just hoping that it wasn't going to be a robbery, because at the end of the day, do I like Brandon Moreno? Of course I do, but I honestly would rather just good judging and fairness, if I'm going to be honest. So one judge gave Alexandre Pantoja the first round. That's the round with the big knockdown, and it would be pretty surprising if you didn't give it to him. Although one judge didn't give it to Jalin Turner, despite him getting knocked down as well. Outside of that, they gave him 2, 3, 4, 5. That is crazy to me. Like, how the hell do you give that to Brandon Moreno? 49-46 is a laughable scorecard, but it's not at the same time judging everything needs to be fixed. It's garbage. We need a better system. We need more judges. I've talked about this before and what my solutions are. If you guys want me to make a video on its own about it, I will. But I want to talk about the main event, and I'm going to make more videos talking about the implications of these results and what I think is going to happen next. But this is going to be the main part of the video. Alexandre Volkanovski dominates Yair Rodriguez. I picked Yair to win, and I thought Yair had a lot of success in that third round, and that's kind of how I pictured him fighting. I think the moment kind of got to him. The first 2 rounds, he was very low output. We don't really see that from Yair. He's very on the gas, going forward, throwing kicks. He wasn't like that in this fight, and a lot of it was from the pressure of Volk, which I didn't expect. I said, hey, Volk isn't the type to pressure, and I thought he would be kind of incapable of doing that, but he was. He cut off the octagon really good. Yair was very uncomfortable, but I also just think it was a mix of that. Yair got a little bit more comfortable in that third round, and we saw him, tagging Volkanovski. I thought he was winning that round, of course, up until the finish. Volkanovski came in with a very heavy wrestling plan, which is what I said he should do. Volkanovski really did follow my whole game plan. If you guys saw my prediction video, that was literally to a T what I said to do. I said wrestle, cut off the octagon, make Yair go backward, fight him in the clinch. Those were all things that I said to do, but I thought that Yair would be able to win, but Yair wound up getting TKO'd in the third round, something I didn't expect. I assumed that this would probably go to a decision, but Volkanovski once again just proving he's getting better and better and better, and this was the result I wanted, simply because, as you guys know, I've been saying this since February, I want the Islam rematch. That is the fight that you have to make, especially now with Oliveira saying he's not going to be ready for Abu Dhabi. You have no choice unless you want to have the winner of Gaethje versus Poirier, but even then, that's going to be a really fast turnaround for them. That's going to be the end of the month, and now there's news with Volkanovski. Apparently, he has to get surgery on his arm. We don't know how bad that is. There is a glimmer of hope because Dana White did say it's just a scope, which basically I looked into it. I'm not a doctor, but apparently it's 6 weeks recovery, and if he gets it this week, he can get it by the end of August. Now, that would be a quick turnaround, getting right back into a training camp, but if he does it at the PI with doctors that specialize in athletes, I think we could possibly see him fight in Abu Dhabi. It would be really quickly. It would be less than a 2-month training camp, and that's assuming he gets it this week. Hopefully he can get it, maybe just tomorrow or something really quickly. I don't really know. Guys, I don't know how fucking surgery works. I don't know if you could just book it. I don't know what the UFC could do, but I'm just saying hopefully they get it quickly so we could just have a fast turnaround, because I know Volk would be down to do that, and we're going to see what happens with all of that. I thought that his performance was really good, and for Yair, I feel like we haven't seen the end of him yet. He's still a pretty young guy. He's 30 years old. Volk, at the end of the day, is turning 35 in just a couple months. The harsh reality is we're not going to see Volk for too long. Yes, he looks really good, but it's not going to be one of those things where we're going to see him for like 5 years. We're looking at a couple years at best, and that's assuming he doesn't lose or something like that. For all we know, he could retire as double champ. Like, these are all possible scenarios, and yeah, Volk just looked better than he did even in the Islam fight, and looked better than I thought he would. He played to a really good game plan, and that's what Volk does well. But yeah, that was UFC 290, guys. I'm going to be making more videos about this. Don't worry, you guys already know. Let me know what you guys want to see. I might put a poll in the corner, so make sure you guys check the little, the little tab in the corner, whatever it is, because I might put a poll up, or maybe I'll put it on my community tab. Curious what you guys want to hear me talk about first. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys thought about UFC 290. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA, and I'll see you guys in the next one.